Cool. Welcome all. It is February 13th, 2025. This is the Gateway Inference Extension open source meeting. Just as a reminder, this is being recorded, which you know because you're watching this online. And please, everyone, behave accordingly. And yeah, we are following the CNCF guidelines, so we're all going to try to be nice to each other here. If you're watching this on YouTube, please be nice to each other in the comments, should there be any. Sweet. And with that, we'll just go ahead and jump right into our agenda. Let me share the screen. Okay. So, looks like you have a demo. Please, please take it away. Let me give you co-host. Make that a little easier.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, I'm just gonna share my entire screen because I'm jumping between windows. Let me know if you don't see my screen or any issue.
I just see a big black box. It may just be me, but
do you see a VS Code?
No, I also see the Great Void and nothing else.
Sorry, let me see. I'm sharing the entire screen, but let me redo that maybe. Entire screen. How about now?
I see Inception.
How about this time? Can you see a VS Code?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. I need to hone my Zoom skills, but yeah. Okay. So I have this benchmark tool for benchmarking the gateway extension and also using the Kubernetes service as a baseline. And obviously you can extend more. So this tool, I guess I'll just jump directly to the demo and you can see what it does. It's really trying to kind of automate the benchmark, so you don't have to write a bunch of YAMLs and analyze the results. So I'll start with this example. So this is a configuration-based benchmark tooling that you can configure a list of benchmarks. So I'll explain this first benchmark. So I have this EPP, or like our extension for demo. So under this configuration, there are 3 sections right now. So obviously you want to configure the model server. Here, the config only captures a few important parameters we care about. Obviously, we can keep extending. So in this case, I have the VLLM and with a A100 GPU, and I'm doing 3 replicas. And the load balancer in this case is the gateway extension. I have the image, and we just had the first release, and I'm using the AI on GKE latency profile tool. It's a benchmark tooling. Some of you may already know this. Basically, you can give it an endpoint and give it some request rates to run. It generates some inputs from a shared GPT data point. And the second benchmark case is the baseline for service. So here I'm showing that you can actually, it supports inheritance, right? So you can just inherit it from existing benchmark, but just overriding a few parameters. In this case, I'm just overriding this to a service instead of the extension. So with that, I'm just gonna hit the start the benchmark, and hopefully by the end of the demo, I'll get some results. If not, I'll show you something I ran yesterday. So all you need to do is give it the name of the configuration file, in this case, example, and this run benchmark file.
Can you make your text a bit bigger in the terminal, maybe?
Yes. How about this? Sorry.
Thanks. Yeah.
Okay. Right. So it starts running, and this is the configuration I just showed. So I can switch to my terminal so you can see. Do you see my terminal?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So you can see that. So what's happening now is doing this baseline benchmark. Let me make this a bit bigger. So hopefully, is it okay? So the way it works, it will it will create a new, UID, and then, create a new namespace to run the benchmark. And right now it's creating the model server, and after this is ready, it's gonna, deploy the benchmark tool and wait for it to finish. So I guess I'll switch back a moment later. But so coming back to the tool, so what happens is after I hit the RAM benchmark, what it does is, first of all, it's gonna automatically generate the manifests. So in this output folder, so let me just read the log and see, because it generates a new ID. What ID was that? Okay, so first of all, it was generating the manifests, and then using, it created run ID 02 something. So it's this one, right? So and it creates a manifest, and you can see the model server is here. And in this case, this is just a service. It's very simple. But in the EPP case, the load balance is much more complex, because we have all the Envoy stuff. We have the inference pool, inference model, like a bunch of stuff. And it also captures the kind of, because it supports inheritance, right? It has to resolve to a full config file. So it also snapshots that and make sure if you want to reproduce this, you can see what config was used exactly. So it's up and running. So after a while, what happens is it will, in the same output folder, it will create a output file. So I can show you something I ran yesterday. So the same demo, but you can see that it creates a results folder. So in the results, it has, this is the result that the LPG tool creates. So it gets a whole bunch of metrics on, the prompts, latency and throughput, all that. So I want to show you something else. So here I also, do you see this? I'm showing a dashboard. This is on
Yes.
Google, on GCP. So yeah, I just created like a link to the dashboard, so you can come and see that this is the period of the benchmark, and this is all the VLLM metrics, and you can configure this. The next thing I want to demo is, let me switch to this. Yeah, so this is a little Jupyter notebook I wrote to kind of plot the results. So all you need to do is give it the run ID that I just showed, and there's some helper function to plot. Let me just connect. And once you do that, and then you can come here and just plot the name of your benchmark. If you remember, I have two benchmarks in my demo. I have the EPP, I have the baseline. So you just give them the name, and it will plot. And you can configure what metrics you want to plot here, right? There's a bunch of things the tool collects. So here I'm just plotting. I think this is a tool name of prompts. Let me make it this big. I think this is probably too small. Yeah, I'm plotting the number of prompts, and this is the throughput, and this is some latency. I won't go to details of the metric. I'm just demoing the capability of this tool. I guess that's pretty much it. Let me go back and see if, so it's running. I guess it's gonna take a while, so I don't think, so I guess I'll pause here to take any questions.
So you're showing this in like some corp tool. How do you, the dumb question, but how do you view this if you don't have Google Corp access?
Oh yeah, good question. So actually, so I demo something about this monitoring. It does not require that, right? It's just some additional feature you can get if you run on Google. The core dependency you need is just some sort of like endpoint. Like I guess you need some cluster or some environment to. So this LPG tool is open source, like everything else is open source. You do not need the Google or GCP to run this.
I assume the thing that you're referring to, Rob, is the visualization. That's a
Yeah,
code.
yeah, that's all.
Yeah, that can run also on
Oh,
notebook.
this one? Yeah, this is a Jupyter Notebook. Yeah, I'm running this on
Okay.
my Google Lab, but yeah, you can run it anywhere. Yeah.
Okay.
And Colab is also publicly accessible, Rob.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, you need to pay for it though. Oh, well, I think you can get some free.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I mean, I ran this locally, really. So this notebook, I actually ran it. I connected to my my own, like, you know, my computer, where I ran this VS Code. So you can see that results are saved locally as a files. So the Jupyter Notebook is directly reading the files from this.
Damien, you got a hand.
Yeah, so is this tool based on the Inference perf project from the serving working group?
I believe there is some effort on like consolidating the benchmark tools. Right now, I'm using the one that Google developed, like called Latency Profile Generator. But I know there's an ongoing effort to consolidating a few different tools. So once that's available, I guess we can, you know, move to that. This is like basically built on top of that. I don't care what tool we use as long as, you know, it generates some sort of structured data, so we can just adapt to that.
Yeah, the reason I asked that, you know, I put 2 links in the chat window, and yeah, the first link is the Inference perf tool that we were just talking about, and then there's another link for someone in the community that did some performance testing, shared the results, and then if you go through there, you'll see that I asked, like, wow, this is great. I think it's important that we document this so we can reproduce it as well as, you know, for others. And what I'm getting at is, you know, you've got this tool, someone else has another document, and then we get, you know, just to try, you know, how do we kind of consolidate these efforts and, you know, preferably use, you know, the Inference perf tool. So yeah, long story short is, like, let's try to align and consolidate so so that we have something documented and we have a kind of a standard tool to use for others to use. So I don't know what others think about that. Or
I fully agree with that. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I just
I
want
think
to
that's
highlight
spot on, Damien.
this tool. I think my main kind of motivation for this is to make it easy to scale, because you can see this is the real benchmark I'm running. There are tens of them and maybe go to thousands, like hundreds or thousands. Like they're different on different accelerators and all these different combinations, right? I want to make this so you can inherit it and just make it much easier to write this and then, you know, automate and orchestrate these runs. Is not for kind of ad hoc like benchmark, like you just want to run one benchmark and see something. It's probably not the tool that you need, because you have to learn this tool. So, and at that point, you better just, you know, craft some YAMLs and do it yourself.
And I'm assuming this tool, again, it is like some sort of just a layer on top of whatever, like, you know, inference performance tool that we will have there. It could be layered on top of it. And that tool, I'm assuming that the LPG that we've open sourced before is going to be part of that repo, right? At least that's my understanding. Like the low-level tool that actually drives the traffic and does the collection of the metrics and report stuff is definitely going to be common.
Yeah.
The one that Trong showed is basically, oh, I want to run all these combinations, right? So it makes sense to have it as a layer on top of that, not necessarily integrated, because you need some semantics here, right? Like I want to run examples where I know that this is inference gateway versus just a normal service, and I have this, you know, LoRa adapters and so on and so forth. So I do see value of what I think Trong is proposing here, and I do see it as like it composes with the Inference perf project. That's my understanding, at least.
Yeah, that's correct. I just want to highlight that once you started running this, like benchmarks, it's actually, yeah, this is actually a problem to like when you run do a large scale of benchmarks. So that's why I started this. Yeah, you're completely right. Yeah, this is built on top of whatever tool already there, and I'm happy to adapt to any new standard that the community agrees on. So I want a framework so we can automate and for people to easier to write more benchmarks and run them at scale, not just ad hoc.
And just making sure we are you demoing this to the Inference Perf team as well? Their meeting.
Yeah, I demoed this to the Google internal group. I'm planning to demo that with that as well, and hopefully, if there's something there, they are planning like going above the stack and doing more automation like this. I love to get their feedback.
Yeah, Della, I wanted to just make sure that I understood the point that you were making. And so correct me if I'm wrong. The point you're making is like what Song's working on here would be like a layer above the inference perf, which is like kind of like the core inference benchmarking tool. And then we would carry, like we'd use that as potentially as a dependency, and then we would carry our kind of like our own test suite for like our own test suite that's specific to our project on top of this tool. Is that my understanding?
Yeah, I mean, potentially even the things that Song is working on can be added to the inference perf. But what this helps us is define the use cases that we want to test against, right? Like for example, my use case is I have 15 adapters, 10 of them are active, or 5 of them are active most of the time, 10 are less active. You know, like we want to craft those use cases where we show the inference gateway value more clearly, right?
So right, come up with a bunch of different like test cases for different LoRa adapter scenarios, right?
Right, exactly. And what are also our like baselines? For example, my baseline is just setting up a traditional Envoy gateway that does round robin. So that's my baseline. Or we're going to do something else, right? Like for example, some session affinity based routing that maybe inference gate like the Envoy gateway might support, right? So it helps us define those use cases more clearly. Right. And ideally, again, this builds on top of that. This is just like, a thin layer on top that defines the use cases and drives like, a large scale benchmarking run for all these use cases, produces the data, and then you've got this really nice Colab or like notebook that allows you to navigate those results.
Yeah, I want to highlight also another core kind of design principle here is to have that. If you remember the config file I showed earlier, it's not just to simplify generating the manifests. We associate that config file as an API and associate that with the results. So eventually, I want to have all the results in a structured database, maybe span or some database, so you can query anything on the config, right? You can aggregate based on different models, different accelerators. I know that this is something in the benchmark community they're talking about for having some config based, because I think they came to realize the same thing. Like you can craft some YAML and run a benchmark, but then once you run that at scale, it's really hard to analyze the data at a certain point, and you do need some semantics to associate the results. So yeah, I would like to also work with them to get this kind of config based idea and make it pluggable, hopefully.
And Song, you were showing some of the visualization of the data, but could we potentially use like a Grafana dashboard for visualizing that data?
Yeah, yeah, I guess that's possible. I mean, so far we could create a Grafana just for the whatever small servers or even our extension, right? And we can, but visualizing this data, I'm not too sure. I think it's not, this data is the tool generates more like, it's not like a metrics, it's a lot more like a summary that gives you, if you want to drill down into the exact detail, we can give a link to the Grafana dashboard. The vision I have for this is really to have this in some sort of database So
Yeah.
and create a like an out of the box dashboard. Like you can click on filtering or aggregation, whatever you want to do, and even write any complex query. If we do this continuously, for example, if you want to analyze any performance regression, you can do that.
No, yeah, no, I like where you're headed with that. That makes more sense.
Cool. Yes, Song, thank you for the demo. I think that will be very useful, and looking forward to see how we collaborate with our sister teams on that.
Cool. Thank you very much. I can clean this up and put, this tool in the repo, and people can use it.
Cool. Which repo?
I guess we
Inference
can just
extension?
start with the extension, right? And there's a tools. I can just put it as a tool there.
That might muddy the waters, unless anyone else has a differing opinion. I think working with the benchmarking repo, the inference perf, seems like a more appropriate spot. I'd love to hear different opinions, though, just to keep separation of concerns.
Yeah, I think at this point, this tool is very much tailored for the gateway extension. And like Abdullah mentioned, it's a layer on top of the tool, and essentially it's a script, pretty to automate that. You automate the benchmark tool. But yeah, I love to hear feedback.
Cool. Yeah. I think the inference perf meeting's later today, so yeah, maybe we'll get their opinion. But cool. I think I'm sharing. I am sharing. Sweet. Danian, why don't you go ahead? We have some AIs from last week.
Yeah, and I haven't really had a chance to look at them here, so let's just scan through the last meeting. And I added this just to the template for our agenda. So even if I'm not here or whatnot, I just think it's important for all projects really to make sure that we're doing the things that we say that we're going to follow up and do. So if we just take a moment here so we didn't have any action items. The Envoy, the CPU image testing. So I started testing this out, and I know Jeff had tested a VLM CPU image with Quen, I believe it was, and was able to have success using Docker. I did as well, but as soon as I tried to run it in my GCP instance, just couldn't get it to run as a Kubernetes deployment. So I've had to unfortunately put that on the back burner. If anyone else is interested in trying to update, we'll first test and make sure that the VLM image for CPU can run as a Kubernetes deployment, work out all those details. And then I think what we said last week was if we can get it up and working, just to update our reference VLM deployment to use a CPU image and the Quen model. So unfortunately, no positive progress on my front, but if anyone else is interested, please jump in on that issue and pick it up. I don't think there's any other action items unless anyone else knows of any action items from last week, then we can just keep moving forward.
Cool. No, I think it's a great point. Well, maybe we even add to the agenda. Yep, you already did. Perfect. Cool. This is just a call out from me. I plan on cutting an issue to Gateway API, Rob, just so you know, to talk about. It could even be a discussion just about how we want to handle this extension protocol. We're developing it currently, but it's easy to see how you could genericize this to, hey, I just want to create an extension that I can pick an endpoint how I choose to. So we would open that with you guys and just kind of start that discussion and hopefully get people that are interested working on that. and that, that's just another thing that may be off our plate, and we can focus more on the inference extension. That is a meeting. Cutting that. Sorry. So yeah, that's basically. Any thoughts, Rob? You're a good gateway representative.
Yeah, no, I would love to see this. The reason we didn't start in Gateway API to begin with is this is such a broad topic, right? I mean, there's so many different ways so many different forms of extensions. What we're doing in this project allows us to, have a couple very specific use cases, and just dive into that. So I think we're in a good point here to at least start a discussion more broadly. But yeah, I don't expect anything to move too quickly in Gateway API until we have some more experience, more implementations of what we're doing here. Like if, say, by KubeCon, we've got, I don't know, 3-4 implementations of this, that gives us a lot of signal in terms, and then we get some feedback on it. That gives us some, signal on what works and what doesn't.
I think that sounds great, because we may need to wiggle about how we handle things in the future. So we shall see. But cool, moving right along. Danian, you look like you have some hardware questions.
Yeah, no, this was just, we don't have to really occupy any time, just wanted to throw it on the agenda. And if anyone has any guidance on using or success using the NVIDIA Jetson for as a development environment. So would love to get some of your input, because I just received mine and going to be going down that road. So I wanted to learn from anyone that had some experience there. So yeah, feel free to reach out to me or leave a comment here, and that would be appreciated.
Cool. I would love to hear more about this if/when you get it set up. This is always fun. But,
yeah.
Cool. And then Rob.
Yeah, so I got to drop soon too, but I'll just mention this. This is something that came up as I was talking to an Envoy OSS maintainer, that basically our examples right now with Envoy use original dest clusters, I think that's the right term. But they don't really provide an option to fail open, right? So if you if you're using original dest, you're relying on endpoint picker to respond with an endpoint, and if it doesn't, there's not really a clear fallback. It seems like this is a relatively easy thing to fix or add to Envoy OSS, so I think that's coming soon, like this week, hopefully. But just like, this is a gap, and some people are looking at like other ways to do this as well. I don't fully understand, but just this is a gap right now. If you're trying to support fail open and use the examples we currently have, it doesn't work. So just heads up.
Cool. I know we're tight on time, but how would we plan on just having like in the HTTP route, like if this fails, there's a fallback or something?
No, I mean, so basically Inference Pool has a set of endpoints, and so if Envoy knows about those endpoints, it can fall back to them. The problem is, my understanding of how original dest works is that there's basically no endpoints. It just trusts that whatever endpoint you give it is going to work, and if you fail to give it an endpoint, it doesn't have anywhere else to go.
Okay.
So that's, I imagine the open source fix here is basically a policy that allows cluster to be combined with original dest or something. So yeah.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. No, that cool. Sounds great. Happy to help there if needed. So sweet.
Thanks, everyone.
Rob, you mentioned that there was potentially some upstream work in the Envoy community.
Yeah.
Do you mind linking to that?
So
Here or
I
tomorrow.
literally talked to Envoy maintainer this morning, and I think they're going to create an issue later today. And
Okay.
whenever that comes up, I'll link it in, I guess, one of our Slack channels or groups or whatever. So yeah.
Yeah, or maybe even better if we don't have an issue in the repo, because I know internal discussions, there's been some concern, even just more, not for the fail open, but even just from a security standpoint of using the what is it, the source dest cluster type. So I think
Okay.
this is an issue that that we do need to resolve. We've had some internal discussions, but I'd be curious what the Envoy community is
Yeah.
thinking of as well.
Makes sense. Cool. Sounds good. I will link everything whenever it's created. But yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
All right, thanks all. I think that's it. Unless there's anything else going once. Okay. Cool. Thanks
Okay,
all.
sorry,
We'll see you
Dylan, I was on mute. I just
Oh.
have one point. Maybe for next week, we spend some time in the meeting, maybe doing like an issue triage or something along those lines. I know because I've pivoted where I'm really focusing on the implementation.
Yeah.
I'm having less time to, do reviews of PRs and so forth. And so I just want to call that out as maybe this is a good time next week if we don't have any other burning topics to say, hey, let's use part of the meeting and kind of do some issue triage or something along those lines to keep pace.
Yeah, that sounds great. We can also, I can reach out to you, and you and Abdullah can go through it. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That sounds good. Cool. See you guys.
Thank you.